If you ever think about the most famous Minecraft Pocket Edition servers, a couple may pop into your mind. The Hive, Lifeboat, Mineplex are some servers that all MCPE players should be familiar about. However, out of the many faction servers and rollerplay servers, BrokenLens stands out as one of the most iconic MCPE servers, with its wide array of creative minigames, as well as one of the best communities. BrokenLens was once the best server on MCPE, but some problems ruined the server, and slowly these problems became the downfall of BrokenLens from its peak. So, what happened? Before we talk about how BrokenLens failed to fix their problems, and how it eventually led to its failure, we have to talk about how BrokenLens became a well-known server, and how it achieved its high point. BrokenLens started relatively small in 2015, as although it gained some popularity at the time due to its casual minigames such as hide and seek, it was a relatively simple server at the time. There wasn't anything that separated it from any other server, especially Lifeboat, which was the most popular server at the time, since many of the games were quite buggy, and most of the minigames were pretty much the exact same compared to other minigames from various servers. Although BrokenLens had already gained some popularity from popular YouTubers, it was nowhere near its peak. The community was still relatively small, and most people played other mainstream servers such as Lifeboat and Miniplex. Despite this, BrokenLens did have somewhat of a decent fanbase, as the forums weren't dead, and many of the games were alive to a certain degree. Although most minigames were generic and similar to other servers, such as Skywars, Hunger Games, and Hide and Seek, there was still some uniqueness to the server such as the coin system and the different maps. The PvP system was definitely questionable to an extent, but it was serviceable and not annoying or unfair. Mainly, BrokenLens, as a casual minigame server similar to Miniplex, provides original minigames that you couldn't find on any other server, such as One in the Chamber and QuakeCraft. However, these minigames were very buggy, and as a result most of them were dead compared to other minigames, and these minigames were never updated, a sign of future problems down the road. Despite the multitude of bugs and issues, and despite the simplicity of the server, the games provided an enjoyable experience altogether. BrokenLens would not find its true apex until the Acacia Wood lobby update, probably the biggest update the server has ever undergone. Some key changes to the server would truly separate it from other servers at the time, as these changes were definitely ahead of its time. One major upgrade to the server was the leaderboard system, which, during 2017, was unheard of or seen on any other server, although I guess you could say that Lifeboat had a leaderboard, but it was broken and worse compared to the easy-to-use, widely seen BrokenLens leaderboard. This leaderboard helped keep people stay with BrokenLens, as many players returned to compete for leaderboard positions. Was it somewhat degrading to see kids and teenagers playing the game nearly 5 hours a day to maintain a spot on these leaderboards? Possibly. But it helped maintain and keep a large player base for the server, so much so that nearly 8,000 players were playing the server by 2018. Another strong advantage to BrokenLens after these updates were the additions of new, creative minigames that were popular and unique compared to other servers. Vertex's main belief was that minigames should be unique in order to be different from other servers, and he definitely served that promise all the way until it would prove to be his downfall. New minigames added during this time included innovative minigames, such as Splatter, a copy of Splatoon, one of the only servers to play a functional Splatoon on all of Minecraft, Java or Bedrock. Popular minigames at the time were converted to MCPE by Vertex to provide an experience nearly equivalent to playing on Java, such as Murder Mystery, which at the time wasn't found on any other MCPE server, and also included unique twists that made this murder mystery different from other murder mysteries. Fuck. There even was an option to play MCPE not-a-block music in the lobby, which is definitely unique and probably really hard to code for. But the one true thing that kept BrokenLens together and made it special compared to other servers was the friend system. At the time, the friend system was barely seen on any other server, and it would continue to be a definitive characteristic of the server. Usually, if you got onto any other server, you would play with random strangers and even team with random people. If you enjoyed playing with that person, usually there wasn't much you could do to gain contact with that person. Discord was barely a thing back then, and giving your phone number was probably a recipe for disaster. Even now, if you go on a relatively big server, it seems like you're playing against a bunch of robots, although these players are probably just kids. The friend system for BrokenLens allowed it so that you could maintain these connections with people you played with every day, and it established this unique community that seems like making friends with people in real life, with the same problems and interests similar to you. The community provides somewhat of a place to let loose, and to vent out everything that you were insecure about, appealing to depressed losers like me with nothing to do. The forums bolstered this community by providing more connections between people and creating a well-knit server. This community and the people that made up the community were the true reasons why BrokenLens thrived as a popular server. Even after the update which created featured servers in 2017, which didn't include BrokenLens to the discontent of many players, did nothing to dampen the amount of players who played on BrokenLens. These featured servers were barely upgraded, and seemed like MCPE sellouts, as literally a separate option in the pause menu directed you to mine coins and other in-game content. BrokenLens continued its peak, with nearly separate and unique communities in one minigame as large as a normal server. Despite the continuous problems that plagued the server, such as bugs, as long as Vertex and the server kept this original formula going, there was much potential for the server. And for a long time, BrokenLens maintained this success. Around 2018, the server continued this success, but signs of cracks began to show, as these cracks were foreshadowing the eventual problems that would attempt to break this success. The amount of minigames being created and updated was beginning to slow, and the server shifted its PvP system to the Insta-Eat system, an exploitable, no-skill, luck-dependent approach to PvP. The only problem for 2018 was the beginning of BrokenLens forums becoming more of a toxic, drama-filled environment, until it would eventually become a community of attention-seeking fucks. Despite all of this, BrokenLens maintained a strong player base, and continued to be popular, seen through the explosion of a BrokenLens YouTubers, mainly Hanazard, Adrian Plays and Frysum. However, during 2019, this peak stopped. Everything going well for the server was slowly beginning to fade. The minigames and the community quickly turned from unique and alive to generic and dead. The beginning of the decline began when Vertex never updated any of the small minigames, especially the gameplay. At this point, most minigames except the big ones were receiving no update in minigames, no new content, and so most of the minigames were becoming stale and boring. Soon, there wasn't much left to do in the minigames, and once everything had been done, and people just repeated the same process over and over, they began leaving these small minigames, causing a chain reaction leading to dead minigames. Even to this day, most minigames have not received an update for a couple of years. The only changes have been the addition and even subtraction of maps. It's been more than a year since we've had a new minigame, Mob Wars, and the minigames created after Murder Mystery were mostly teen versions of old minigames. Not only was the gameplay beginning to bore, but it also seemed like BrokenLens was beginning to feed into the boredom, as they began to reward the players who tryharded and played only to win. It may seem somewhat contradictory for me to say that playing for the win is bad, considering that it seems normal that people play in order to win. But most minigames struggled with imbalance and elitism that caused many players to leave. Small minigames struggled with elitism, as only a certain amount of people would play the game and win all the games through teaming. These minigames such as One in the Chamber and Microbattles suffered from elitism and a coalition of people controlling how each game went, which gave no possible way for new players to get on the leaderboard or even play the game. It's extremely disappointing considering that BrokenLens' unique communities were created at the expense of new players. These minigames desperately required updates to control the balance of the games, but nothing was done to improve the minigames. For example, Microbattles had a bug where the lava wouldn't disappear once the map disappeared, and since the ranked players had kits that allowed them to swim in lava infinitely, they usually lava camped the entire game, and won every game as well. When asked to remove this, Vertex refused to remove this mechanic, and it would stay that way until it was recognized as a bannable exploit, although the mechanic is still in the game. This essentially allowed you to win the game forever with the small price of $25, which seems fair from the outside, but most servers don't give advantages to players for buying their ranks, only cosmetics and other special features. For large minigames, especially team minigames, people would tryhard to such extremes to get on leaderboards, and BrokenLens gave all the resources for them to do so. The amount of imbalance in each minigame was seen especially with one of the infamous additions of BrokenLens, the Buster Kit. If you've ever played BrokenLens for more than at least 2 weeks, you know what the Buster Kit is. Even people on BrokenLens who've never played PvP minigames knows what the Buster Kit, because the Buster Kit is fucking OP as shit. The Buster Kit began as a decent kit, due to the advantage of getting full chain armor at the beginning of the game, but it did not dominate each minigame until the addition of the Instiate system. Before the Instiate system, BrokenLens had a standard PvP system, and after this system, it switched to a UHC PvP system, where you had to eat food to gain hearts. However, you still had to eat through an animation to gain hearts, as opposed to what it has now, where the food instantly eats. And this system completely ruined all PvP on the server, making PvP more luck-based than skill-based. You may argue that other servers are also determined by luck, but they add things that give people who play riskier more rewards. For example, Hive Skywars has regular chests at the starter island, but puts ender chests in the middle to encourage more fights and fair play. In BrokenLens, the most successful way to play BrokenLens is usually to avoid all fights, and wait until other players drain out all their food. This is especially seen in Hunger Games, as the game is completely ruined by Instiate and usually the amount of food determines who wins. Most PvP minigames on BrokenLens take barely any skill, and as a result most players who claim to be good at PvP on BrokenLens can't PvP on other servers, due to how drastic the PvP system is from the standard PvP system. The PvP system was even more ruined by the little knockback, as this also denies much of the skill in the game, as people can easily get hits without even sprinting. As a result, since there are barely any combos you can do, especially on mobile, this continues to encourage Buster Kit and food tryharding, leading to a more boring system. The struggling PvP system and tryhards have led to the end of most PvP minigames with Instiate, and thus a slow downfall of BrokenLens. However, despite the oblivious mistakes on the server, the community stayed strong enough that people stayed to converse with other players. And although BrokenLens has lost a lot of old players at this time, some dedicated players have stayed in the community still, as the community has adapted and changed over the years. Until 2020. BrokenLens used to hit 8,000 players, but now if you go on the server, only 2,000 players play the minigames, and most of the server plays only a couple of minigames. Sometimes, it seems that BrokenLens lies about its player count, since I noticed that on small minigames, the player count will jump from 16 players to 50 players all of a sudden. Which is even more fishy when you play the game and you have to wait a couple of minutes in the game lobby despite the player count saying that there's 50 players, although this could be the case for all MCPE servers. Most of the time the players on the server aren't even playing the game, but rollerplaying in the lobby. While you could argue BrokenLens is dying because MCPE is dying, that is true, but Hive and Lifeboat have exceedingly more players than BrokenLens, showing that BrokenLens has definitely declined. While the staff could say that the server has been decreasing in player count because of bad luck or something out of their control, the truth is simply that the staff and Vertex had did something to change the previous success of their server. And that something was nothing. Although BrokenLens had a spike of players during the COVID pandemic, BrokenLens has been on the decline ever since. BrokenLens was easily beat out by featured servers such as Hive and Lifeboat, not surprising considering that they are the official servers, and BrokenLens looks outdated compared to these official servers. Even some unfeatured servers arguably are better than BrokenLens, such as Nether Games, Hyperlands, and Verse. A lot of factors contributed to more players quitting, but the most important cause I believe that ruined the potential of the server was the lack of effort from the staff team and Vertex himself. Whenever you talk about the problems of the server, it seems like there's two generic answers that are always replied back: that Vertex is busy and that he wants the server to be unique. Vertex has struggled to do much to update the game, and if he is truly busy that's fine. But I do think Vertex and the staff team have struggled to connect with the player base, which would fix all these dry spells and lack of updates. I think Vertex can be given some slack for the development, as he has to do most of the dev stuff himself, but the staff team has struggled to talk about when minigames or updates are coming out. If you look at this graph, it shows how Vertex has struggled to keep people updated. And what the graph doesn't tell you is that most of the announcements in 2019 and 2020 were events or maps. As a result, people felt like the server was going nowhere and left. As for the server being unique, yes, the server is definitely unique. Uniquely shit. It doesn't make sense to sacrifice normal additions to the game for unbalanced buggy bullshit. The game should have some special features, but the core of the game should stay normal and similar to other games, especially the PvP system. Plus, I don't know how unique BrokenLens is after Vertex jumped on Bed Wars trend and made Mob Wars, which is barely different from the other versions, and probably worse. Does it seem like I'm being a bit too unfair to Vertex and the staff, who claim that they are very busy and have much to do? Yes. But it is evident that this is the reason why BrokenLens has done so poorly over the past year. The biggest problem of the staff team was the inability for them to take criticism, and the community on forums is mostly to blame for this. If you go on forums, there seems to be a coalition of staff suck-ups, who look towards the staff as great leaders who are always right, and they will always side with them in an argument, regardless of what they are saying. As a result, BrokenLens doesn't take criticism at all, leading to BrokenLens continuing making the same mistakes and doing the same shit forever. The BrokenLens forums used to be a place where the server's issues and problems were actually discussed, but now it seems like most of it is a massive waste of time. Like spamming is useless, and the main reason forums existed, the report system, was replaced with an actual report system in the server. There are an endless amount of bugs. The game is laggy and unplayable most of the time, despite people having perfectly good ping, and yet no one on the staff team listens to what the players suggest they should do at all. Furthermore, they believe that everything on the server is fine as is, and they are usually quick to be defensive and barely agree that they are wrong or doing the wrong thing. Here's my criticism of the staff. Not only are there not enough staff on the server, but the staff on the server are very poorly chosen. If you notice how most people become staff, it's not by experience nor skill, but by how nice you are, which is a very subjective characteristic to judge someone off. Considering that someone could be nice only for the purpose of being a staff member. Plus, this may come as a shock to you guys, but the staff are not very good at their job. I've seen a lot of hackers on the server, to the point where there are literal hacker compilations made on this server, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you can agree with me as well. In fact, here is a picture of one of the notorious hackers on BrokenLens, Kenji, getting on the OITC week leaderboard. If you do the math, a 1 in the chamber game takes at least 2 minutes, if not on average 3 minutes, and after multiplying 24 games by 3 minutes, this means that Kenji could have been on from 48 to 72 minutes, which is unacceptable. There's an easy solution to this dilemma, which is either removing staff that are not well suited to their job, or just hiring more staff, which should be feasible considering how dedicated the fanbase is. In the past, the staff members actually interacted with the players, like Apifox and Hazard the Dutch ad, but now it seems like many of the staff members are essentially robots programmed to say nice things and ban hackers, instead of discussing new ways to improve the server. Not only do the staff struggle to take criticism, but the report system on the server is undoubtedly completely unfair and terrible. Over the past year, many dedicated players have been banned without even seeing proof, and even when people collectively agree that someone had been falsely banned, the staff refused to unban them. One example was Original Gamer vs. Sunset. If you play Skywars, you may be aware of this situation, but basically Original Gamer was banned by Lavageral on the forums, despite the screenshot being extremely suspicious, as most of the in-game text was gone and it seemed like the screenshot was staged. At first glance it would make sense to trust Sunset, probably the most active staff ever, and Original Gamer did hack in the past. But at the same time, he hacked 1 year before this, and, although there were still staff pets sticking with Sunset's decision, there was far greater backlash on Sunset's part, as tons of people provided solid arguments as to why Sunset was wrong. People arguably way more credible than a person who just joined the BrokenLens forums. It does seem like Sunset was wrong in this case, which is rare, but the evidence seemed stacked against her and all she had to do was admit that she was wrong. For some reason, however, she seemed really adamant about her decision, and even more unusual was that she acted extremely cold for some reason to this kid who genuinely enjoyed playing the server. However, afterwards Original Gamer bypassed, and he got banned for an actual reason, but this case still remains somewhat of an injustice to this day. Another example would probably be my experience with the staff, and how I experienced the unfair report system. On the BrokenLens forums, you are able to either publicly report or privately report a person, and usually the staff will conceal the identity of the person reporting that player, which is fair. However, you can't see the private evidence, which I realized the hard way. After arguing with the staff that not seeing the private evidence is unfair and absurd, she argued back that it's a Minecraft server, not a trial, which suggests that the server is its own world and that nothing from the real world applies to these situations. I understand if I sound suspicious, because I've got no proof that I am trustworthy, but at the same time, are the staff really trustworthy? Maybe, but that doesn't mean that they should be allowed to control who gets banned or unbanned. The community should be able to rule if a ban appeal gets rejected or not, after looking through the evidence. After all, the staff are not completely perfect in their jobs, and they are bound to make mistakes. Furthermore, judging by her words, I believe that she misinterpreted some of the evidence, as many of her claims are just how to be good at one in the chamber. For example, she claims I avoided people and ganged up on others to win games, and I agree with that statement, but that does not mean I team. People ask me a lot how to be good at one in the chamber, and it's pretty simple. Kill all the bad people and avoid the skilled players until you get streaks to easily take them out. The poor PvP system and no regen really pushes people to camp and clean other people, and therefore what she described was essentially just a normal one in the chamber match. In addition, she claims I didn't attack some people in a game until she spectated, but I believe that Ian camped the entire game, and I didn't want to risk fighting Disc because he's PC, and I knew I would get tossed. Do I have proof that this is what happened and this is what she thinks? But it would rather know that I was banned for teaming because I avoid good players and kill bad players, than not know the evidence at all. All of this leads to the overall debate currently going on in BrokenLens, whether the old BrokenLens was better than new BrokenLens. And to be fair, there are some things that truly made BrokenLens stand out in the past. For example, Vertex used to focus on producing quality minigames at a solid pace, as these minigames provided unique aspects to the server that made it special compared to the others. The most important thing, however, was the welcoming community of BrokenLens, and how connected the community was, as it was welcoming and unique even to this day. I think that the community was the one thing that kept the server from falling apart, and so I don't believe that the server falling apart was fully Vertex's problem. After all, the community grew up and left MCPE to pursue bigger things, and there's nothing Vertex could have done to prevent this. In the debate whether old or new BrokenLens is better, the truth is it doesn't really matter. People like to use nostalgia to distort how they feel about the past, when really nothing has really changed. The end of the old lobby, or other changes that the server had undergone, didn't stop you from playing the server, but the people there who left and who you enjoyed playing with did. In fact, new BrokenLens currently is not all a dumpster fire, as there are some aspects that were well made. BrokenLens is one of the only servers that fully nerfs PC, so that some pays can compete equally with PCS. And the build team and the maps are truly detailed, as I do believe that the BrokenLens build team is one of the best in the MCPE community. Some of these maps are truly amazing, and you can tell the build team takes lots of effort to build some of these maps. But just because I don't think it matters whether old BrokenLens or new BrokenLens is better, do I think that the server should just continue what they are doing? Although I am not mad at Vertex at all, because he is probably busy enough and has to do everything himself, and maybe he just doesn't have the passion to continue this everlasting grind to please a disgruntled audience. I am still disappointed that Vertex never took advantage of the potential of the server, and didn't capitalize on the opportunities he had. Furthermore, I am disappointed that all of the effort the BrokenLens players, who grind the game every day, who are so dedicated to the server that they have stayed connected to for years, will be disregarded as Vertex and many others don't look towards improving the server. In the end, the question isn't if BrokenLens will change, but if BrokenLens wants to change. Currently, most of the community is built upon the premise that everything on the server is fine, when there are many problems to be addressed and fixed, and little action is being done to fix these problems that could enhance the experience of the server. If the majority of the community is fine with no change, a drama-filled community, and a buggy and laggy server, well, so be it. Maybe BrokenLens will stay the same, and Vertex won't listen and continue to do the same shit he's been doing. In fact, even if Vertex does a complete change, it probably still won't be enough for BrokenLens to become a top-tier server. People will go on and do other things without BrokenLens, and live their lives without burdening the people who do enjoy where the server is at right now. BrokenLens will never return to the golden age simply because the nostalgia from the past is just too much. Many people like I miss the simpler times back then and the fun I had playing the server, the friends that I had made on the server, the enjoyment I had playing the server, a simpler time where I could join BrokenLens without worrying about anything else. BrokenLens will soon completely die, and as the community changes year after year, and as BrokenLens slowly fades into a memorable moment of childhood, it will always serve as a reminder to many to move on from the past, and to go on to the future.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? All those nights when you've got no lights, the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail, and your third fiancé didn't show. Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. Roll out of bed, Mr. Coffee's dead. The morning's looking bright, and your shrink ran off to Europe and didn't even write. And your husband wants to be a girl. Be glad there's one place in the world where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna go where people know people are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.